Hi, and welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce, and here we go. First, as of both my publishing time Sunday mornings and my earlier deadline, the World Series is still on. True enough, I don't know right now how things stand when this goes up, but it has the makings of a legendary World Series, and those don't happen all the time. First, both teams have circumstances that might make them favored by the country as a whole. And everybody knows the long time sporting drought that Cleveland suffered for so long, 52 years, without a championship of any kind. And that only ended a few months ago when the Cleveland Cavaliers won the NBA championship. Now, the Cubs have not been in a series since 1945. That's the longest of anyone, but they have won, Chicago has won championships in other sports. I mean, the Bulls were almost automatic in the Michael Jordan years, and the 85 Bears rolled like no team before or since, but the Cubs. Not only have they not been since 1945, they hadn't won since 1908. So if the Cubs were facing, say, the Yankees, or the defending champion Royals, everybody except Royals fans and Yankees fans would be wearing Cubby shirts. And if we're the Indians against, say, the Giants or the Mets, everyone would be pulling for the Tribe. Instead, two easily liked teams, one town or the other is going to be really, really happy, and the other one's going to be thinking of what might have been. It's also cool that both teams are Great Lakes cities. That has not happened very often either. But what has to be the coolest thing? I mean, this is so terrific. And I didn't know this was going to happen. Maybe it was written about somewhere in advance, but if so, I did not see it. See, the manager of the Cleveland Indians is Terry Francona. Now, he's a pretty good baseball manager. The Boston Red Sox had their own ignominious history. They couldn't win the World Series. It was known as the curse of the Bambino because a long time ago, they never won again after trading Babe Ruth away to the hated Yankees. Now, they made it to the series in 67 but lost. They went in 75. They lost in 7 games in that one. That was a legendary one. That was against Cincinnati's Big Red Machine, Johnny Bench and Pete Rose and guys like that. I was at Game 2 of that series. Then they won again in the mid-'80s. Bill Buckner, the famous, ball got through his legs at first base. And then they went in 2004. The Red Sox were down in 2004, 3-0 in the championship series. This is against the Yankees. Which you have to keep in mind. In any sport, when there's a best of 7 championship, basketball, baseball, no team ever had come back from 3-0. Yeah, they maybe win a game or 2, even 3, but when you're down 3-0, you have to win 4 straight, and no one ever had. Until 2004, that team did it. In fact, they came back from 3-0. They won 8 straight. They won 4 in a row to beat the Yankees, but then went on and swept in their World Series. And the manager for those Red Sox was Terry Francona. But what makes this great, see, Terry's father, Tito, played for the Cleveland Indians from the Wayback Machine. Here's a picture of the Indians' dugout. And it was Sons Day or something. Lots of the Indians' sons were there, apparently. And that's circa 1961. And here's Tito, and I think this one is Terry. All right, so here's the other thing. Tito Francona was my favorite Cleveland Indian. I mean, a lot of favorites. Gary Bell was a pitcher, first baseman, Vic Power, shortstop Woody Hill, Max Alvis at third, Jimmy Pearsall in center. My favorite was Tito Francona. And here is a picture of Tito Francona at a department store, autographing some kid's glove. A kid who you can't tell from this angle, but that's a kid who had stars in his eyes. You couldn't believe it. He was there with this major league guy, Tito Francona. You know what? All these years later, I can still hardly believe that was me, yeah. Which is why I thought this was the coolest thing in the world. When my favoriteest baseball player from when I was a kid, baseball player who is now 82 years old, and this upcoming Friday, he turns 83. Yeah, so Tito Francona, along with his son, got to throw out the first pitch for Game 1.
Moments ago, Terry Francona's 82-year-old father and former Indians outfielder Tito Francona with his son by his side. They're at the ceremonial first pitch now. He told me he wanted to get it right. He went out yesterday and threw 25 practice pitches, guys.
And I'll tell you right now, that was rich. That was just a wonderful moment here. And Terry and Tito and walking off the field with the son with his arm around his father, and just wonderful.
And how cool is that? Okay, so I'm not going to spend much time on the election. Really, I'm not. Donald is still threatening to put Hillary in jail. He's still saying the election is rigged. And he says the polls show him ahead. Even his campaign manager said he's behind, but he doesn't care. All right, so, Alex Jones is saying Trump is way ahead, but, Alex Jones is a bit of a nutter. Oh, and at my deadline, the week hasn't officially ended so far, but last week Alex Jones had predicted that Hillary would quit. Well, here we are. It's still not officially the end of the week, but still Hillary still hasn't quit, and Michelle Obama hasn't yet replaced her. But he did return to his trope that she's falling down. He alludes to this clip, and, well, watch.
Almost falling down again today. That video's up on Infowars.com. It is crazy to see all this happening. Meanwhile, Donald Trump will win, says the political scientist who's always been right in every major election since.
Okay, watch it again. It is a small step up to a small stage. And that's not a fall. It's merely a step. There's no railing there, so she's helped up. That looked pretty graceful, actually. Everything in today's elections is staged, but I found this pic this week, and take a look. I think we had a stool like that. It's been several weeks since that vulgar video of Donald Trump came out. Well, here's one from a few years ago, and I saw it for the first time this week. It's not at all vulgar.
Hillary's a great friend of mine. Her husband is a great friend of mine. They're fantastic people. I mean, the thing, they get a bad knock. She's a very nice woman. People think tough, and I guess she's tough, but she's a very nice woman, and he's a very nice guy. We know all about the smarts and how smart they are, but they are good people.
So, maybe it doesn't really matter whom you vote for. Maybe we are all out on a stage acting out a helpless pantomime.
Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. For most of my adult life, I weighed a little over 100 pounds. Not much more than in this picture taken when I was about 17 and considering becoming a jockey. But as is often true, once I crossed into my 40s, extra weight came, and it stayed. For years, I tried to lose, instead gained, and ended up 153 pounds. And I'm embarrassed to show you this video. Then I learned that it isn't about calories and exercise, but instead it's about what you eat. You might say, sure, ice cream makes you fat. But there were surprises, things like orange juice not being such a wise choice if you're trying to lose weight. So I just made some basic changes to what I ate, not how much, and the weight just fell off. Now, nearly 3 years later, it is still off. And don't misunderstand, I'm eating foods I like, not bamboo shoots. Friends ask me how I did it so often, I put it in a book. It's available as an ebook for all platforms, and the print edition is available at barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com. Hey, you can shrink too.
Welcome back. Remember, you can watch all of our previous episodes on our Facebook page, The Bruce Channel. Yeah, that's the right way. Or at tinyurl.com/Bruce Channel. And you can write to us at thebrucechannel@yahoo.com. Okay. couple of real quickies. I told you over a month ago, at the time that we changed from summer to autumn, that's the equinox, I told you that I successfully balanced an egg. And then I told you I was able to do it again a day or two later. So I wasn't sure if a day or two later is still near enough the equinox, or maybe it was because eggs have imperfections and maybe this egg's made a little bit of a stand. So I promised I would try it again when the equinox was well enough in the rearview mirror. So, I really didn't know how this would work, but I did this week, and as you can see, it's a moving picture, not a still frame, and yes, that same egg was balanced. So my conclusion is, yeah, this egg's imperfections appear to have created a bit of a base. I'll maybe try it again in March. Anyway, okay, so speaking of treats, yes, eggs are a treat, aren't they? Certainly deviled eggs are. All right, so lousy segue, but speaking of treats, it's time for Trick or Treat tomorrow. I suppose there were some Halloween parties on Saturday night, maybe Sunday or Friday, but the traditional night is Monday, the 31st. So anyway, I found this. Okay, this is for guys. If you're a guy and you're married or you have a main squeeze, this is not going to do you any good unless you use it with her. And certainly if you went to that party on Saturday, it's too late. But, if you don't have any of those issues, or you just want to keep the idea around for next year, here's a different sort of costume. All right, so there was some news this week that even was more depressing than just the election. So way back in winter, remember, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia died. And then immediately, and pretty much in unison, Senate Republicans said, no way, Jose, we don't care who's nominated. We will not consider, we will not convene, we will not interview, we won't even have hearings. Doesn't matter. Not by this president. The line was that the people should choose. Now, the truth, of course, is that they hoped all along it would be a Republican president who would be elected. And that was transparent. But then not long ago, less than 2 weeks ago, polls are generally showing Hillary Clinton winning. Senator John McCain said that, maybe we'll just ignore the opening and hold it open forever no matter who she nominates. Maybe we won't consider anyone that she would nominate. What? Really? All right, so first off, his fellow Republican senator from Arizona, Jeff Flake, said no, he doesn't mean that. And Senator McCain then did walk it back just a bit. Now, last week before, I just spoke of Senator McCain's integrity. But he is 80 years old. Maybe his arteries are hardening and he's not thinking so clearly. I mean, who knows? But what was enormously troubling happened Thursday night. The senator nobody likes, Ted Cruz, and yeah, he's young, so it's not hardening of the arteries. He said that, maybe that's exactly what we might do, This is the guy who read Green Eggs and Ham on the Senate floor, who called for the shutdown of the federal government. He simply can't stand it when he doesn't get what he wants.
No work, no allowance.
That's not fair!
Don't raise your voice to me. Now, you get on out of here. I got things to do. What are you doing? Opie, I asked you what you're doing.
I was holding my breath.
Good lung exercise. Opie, what are you doing now?
I'm crying and I can't stop.
Shame.
All right, this past week, as is true every week, some of us left this mortal coil for our next adventure. On Monday, we lost Robert Villain. Most of you may not have heard of Robert Villain, but depending on your age, you very well might have heard of Bobby V. He was one of the teen idols. Good-looking guys. Teenage girls fell in love with them. Some of them could even sing. And Bobby V was one of the latter. Now, True enough, the songs didn't have a complexity, but, that was pretty much true of the era. And those songs came out of car radios and transistor radios. They had clear lyrics. You could understand them. They had melodies. You could sing along.
Devil or angel, I can't make up my mind which one you are. I'd like to wake up and find. Devil or angel, dear, whichever you are, I miss you, I miss you. If you found another guy who satisfies you more than I do, run to him. I'll step aside. If you think his lips can kiss you better than my lips can kiss you, run to him. Forget my pride. Take good care of my discover that you don't really love her. Just send my baby back home to me. 'Cause the night and the Bible eyes and the Bible eyes can't help but see if you are true to me. So remember when you tell those little white lies that the night has a thousand eyes.
He had 6 gold records. And then I remember seeing him long after his Teen Idol years. I went to a nightclub and he was there. I didn't even know it. Just he and his band. He did certainly some of the hits, but he wasn't being mobbed. He was just doing his thing. He was very credible. He sang okay, and he seemed to be earning his living in a way that he enjoyed. And if you can do that, you've got it lit. Years after that, I think maybe as recently as 10 years ago, I heard him, Bobby V, interviewed by Terry Gross on Fresh Air. One of the things he said was, early on he had hired a piano player, and as I think about it, I could be wrong, but I think he said the pianist wasn't all that good. But what puts the exclamation on the story is this. The piano player's name was Robert Allen Zimmerman. Incidentally, Zimmerman was just in the news too. Although, that's another name you might not recognize. Robert Allen Zimmerman, he just won the Nobel Prize in Literature. Bob Dylan. Okay, one other note. You may be familiar with the story. Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens were killed in a plane crash on their way to a Minnesota concert way back when, 1959. V was from Fargo, North Dakota, very near where they were scheduled to play. So he volunteered his band to substitute. They did, and so began a pretty good career. He made a final album a few years ago. He had been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and he stopped performing live, I think 2011. But he did make the album. And then for the last 2 years, he's been in hospice care. Fairly well, Robert. All right, finally, this is leftover. This is from the beginning of the month when I was away. And it is terrific, but there was so much going on, and this wasn't time perishable, so it kept getting put on the back burner. Like Longfellow's little girl, when they're good, they're very, very good. But when they're bad, they're horrid. And I'm speaking of Pearls Before Swine. I've shown you some before. Horrid was one just a couple of days ago, but this was from a Sunday early in the month, and I must share it. So in the first frame, Pig is asked, "How are you doing, Pig?" "Not good, Marie." And then he explains, "There's a giant sump pump that drains the water for our entire city. And when the city inspector went down to look at it, he saw that it was all yellow with rust and had to be replaced." "How does that affect you?" "The house Rat and I live in is right on top of it. So they're going to have to tear down our house." "Oh no, what goat's house and zebra's house. They're going to have to tear those down, too. So you all live on top of this sump thing? Yep. We all live on a yellow sump, Marie. Yellow sump, Marie. Yellow sump, Marie. Last frame. All right, so until next time, name no one man. Happy Halloween. Go Tribe. And may your upcoming week be the best one you've ever had. At the end of it, change your clocks.